So who are you?
I'm Derek Ball. I'm the CEO of Tynt, and we work with content publishers to help them benefit from when people are copying and pasting content from their sites.
And so this is a really neat thing because I'm a content guy, right? And I create content. You can actually see when somebody comes to my content and copies it, like a picture or some let's say a paragraph that they liked, and they want to email that to their boss or to their family member or whatnot. And you can, when you paste that, you paste in a little link, right? Is that what you do?
Absolutely. We looked at what was happening in the content world and the internet, and copying and pasting is a very natural behavior. It happens a lot, and we thought, well, how can we help the publishers to get something out of that in terms of benefit? So we do attach a backlink whenever somebody copies content from one of our 500,000 plus sites that utilize Tynt, and then when that content gets either emailed out or shared on Facebook, the link will automatically be appended, and that helps to drive new visitors back to the content every time.
Yeah. So, and this works whether I'm emailing it or whether I'm putting it into WordPress or Blogger or something like that, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
True?
In fact, it works wherever you paste. And you can, if you don't want that link in there, you can take it out, that's fine. But we find that right now, it looks like 70% of the content that gets shared in email, and 25% goes on to Facebook, and 5% goes into other places on the web.
Interesting. So how does that technology work before we get into what it does for the publishers and what it does?
Sure.
What else you can do with all this data that you're capturing?
Absolutely. The publishers come to tynt.com and they sign up for an account, and then we give them a piece of JavaScript, very much like plugging Google Analytics or something into your site. And then the JavaScript watches for copy actions and records for the publishers, so they know what content people are engaging with and are interested in. It's like an analytics tool. And then it will also then add the link whenever the copy occurs.
Cool. And this works on most OSs and most browsers, right? I know it doesn't work on the iPad. We talked about that before.
It doesn't work on the iPad yet. Hopefully that's going to happen soon. But
Okay.
we do support all the major browsers, so it works in IE, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, and pretty much any browser with more than 2% market share. We make sure it works.
Very cool. And that's on Windows, Linux, and Macintosh?
Any OS, yeah.
Okay. So even a Linux guy, if he's copying text off, he'll get the little link.
Absolutely.
So, so what does that let you as a publisher do? Now that I know that content has been copied into an email and emailed over to a family member or something like that, tell me what happens.
Sure.
Then.
So what the publisher gets, the benefits that they see out of the system as it is right now, is that they first of all make sure that their brand always travels with their content. And we're lucky we have a lot of the tier 1 media companies that utilize Tynt. And they want to make sure that when they've written a story and that story is now being distributed around the web, that it's branded as Time.com or Sports Illustrated or the New Yorker. And so that brand is important to them. But also, of course, the backlink that's in there allows new visitors to find their way back to the content where they consume more stories and more from that publisher. And if it happens to go someplace where the search engines will find it, if it goes into a blog posting or into a comment or somewhere where that's crawlable, then it also helps with SEO.
Interesting. And this is a free service, or tell me how I as a content guy pay for it.
Right. This is the Tynt Insight product, which is a free service. You come and sign up for it, and there's no charge. And we are down the road. We hope to introduce perhaps some additional features on top, which hopefully some people will choose to pay for. But we also have some plans around trying to help people see what is most engaging on the web, and we believe that that's where our future monetization opportunities really lie.
Got it. And what are you learning from all this data? Because you have tons of websites that are using this now. What are you learning from this data?
We've learned a lot of things that we weren't expecting. It was, in fact, one of the first things we learned that we thought was a bug in the product ended up being a feature. And it was that when people are actually, some of our early publishers came to us and said, everything's working great, we're happy with it, everything is super, except when people are copying and then pasting into the search box in Firefox, your attribution link is screwing up the search. So we went about setting up, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want the user experience to be negatively affected. So we decided to try to detect if there was an intent to search and make sure we didn't stick the link on when there was an intent to search. And what we found actually was that almost half of the 300 million searches that we track every month, or copies that we track every month, are actually search intents.
So people are going to the content on a web page, finding some keyword like Barack Obama and copying that and pasting it into the search box, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
And so we actually see the intent to search before a search is performed. And what we can do with that data, for example, is the publishers can learn what people want more information on.
Yeah.
Because specifically, we're working with one large entertainment site, and they had written a story about an actress called Mackenzie Rossman. And 25,000 people that morning copied the name Mackenzie Rossman and pasted it into a search box. And they all knew who Mackenzie Rossman is because they're very close to the business, but a lot of their readers, 25,000 plus, didn't, and wanted more information, which told them that, hey, we should maybe be giving a follow-on story on who this is and what you might want to know about them.
Yeah.
So definitely, and that's the name of the product, insight. We're wanting to give the publishers insight about what people are engaging with, what's most interesting to them, and also where their content gets distributed in terms of is it going into email, how much goes to Facebook, and one of the really interesting learnings as well is the ratios. For example, if it goes out and gets shared by email, for every link that goes out, how many people come back? For links that go into Facebook, how many come back?
And that's where you figured out that 70% of sharing activity is actually done in email?
That's
because
right.
You're able to study it all, where me as a blogger, I can only study if somebody clicks on a URL, right?
Exactly, yeah. We see a lot more detail on that behavior.
Interesting. So how did that copying behavior into a search box turn into a feature? What's the feature?
And so right now what we're doing with that is we've been testing something which is we call speed search. And speed search actually is designed to let the publisher, when somebody is looking for more information on Barack Obama or Mackenzie Rossman, to actually search their own content and surface in place more stories they have around that content, and to offer up web content as well that's related to it, but to do so in a way that doesn't require the user to paste into another search box to get there. The user still can if that's what they want to do, but we find that between 7 to 15% of the time they actually end up selecting one of the results in the result box that we provide.
Yeah, and that way they don't have to leave the site, and go somewhere else that they might never come back, right? That's the usual fear of publishers, is we don't like to send them off because we like to keep them here.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure that the publisher has the opportunity to show that they have more, but if the user wants to go elsewhere, let them go elsewhere.
Yeah. How many links a day are you seeing copied? Give me a sense of the volume of data that you're seeing.
So right now we're seeing about 10 million copies a day. Now we're seeing that's out of almost over 12 to 15 billion page loads we're seeing a month. So what's that, about 500 million a day? So that we're seeing about a 2% of all the page loads resulting in somebody copying the content out of that.
Yeah. Can you study how people copy and paste content and how it's different from, let's say, a share button, like a Facebook like button or a Facebook share button?
Yeah, we actually did a couple of specific, very targeted measurements to try to figure that out, and worked with a couple of our publishers. And what we found is that we now call that the social bar, where you see the dig this and Facebook this and tweet this and share this buttons. And for every time somebody clicks one of those, 50 people have copied from the story.
Interesting. So you can capture a lot more. Tell me about what else you're learning about that data stream of copying, and what you're thinking of doing with it in the future.
Absolutely. So one of the things we learned is that whenever somebody hits Control-C or Command-C, they're implicitly voting, in a sense. They're saying there's something I found of value on this page, because I'm either going to preserve it for myself by pasting it somewhere into a Word document, for example, or I'm going to share it, or I'm going to use it to drive a search, which means that story had something of value that you wanted to take an additional action with.
Yeah.
So we found that by measuring that, we're actually able to see a whole different way of what people care about on the web. And it's not just something really big. It's not just an earthquake in Chile or the death of Michael Jackson. we actually can surface that you cared about, or that somebody cared about, the safety record of a Honda Odyssey minivan or a French Poodle show in Paris. And so with that, we can begin to surface content that's not just the extremely popular, but what's popular with any specific vertical. So we plan to ultimately offer feeds into this content to allow people to see what is most engaging in any vertical that they want, and ultimately build their own apps on top of that.
Oh, that's cool. I'm talking to some other companies that I can't really name on camera yet, but that are building iPad apps, reader apps that are really, really beautiful and really well designed, but they need feeds of data to make it
work. Absolutely.
You know, and make it really compelling.
In fact, you know, Steve Jobs just said recently, he said search on mobile devices is being driven by apps. He called out Yelp as an example of that. And so we want to empower, if you want to build an app on the iPad that focuses on French Poodles, that we can help you understand what content about French Poodles people really care about the most.
Yeah. Are you working with mobile manufacturers? Because it doesn't work on the iPad, I'm guessing it doesn't work on iPhone or Android yet, or does it?
So most of that's based upon, you know, the WebKit browser and which events are present in the mobile implementation of the WebKit browser. And so we are hoping that they will all support the events that we need to capture to make this work. But the content side of it is independent of that.
Okay.
Right? So that still works regardless of the device. It's more a matter of capturing the user's engagement with the story that at the moment doesn't work on those mobile devices, but I think you'll see it there in the not too distant future.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals of the company. How is it funded, and you know how old is it? Where do you think the company's going? Are you going to sell out tomorrow to Microsoft?
Sure. So the company's not quite 3 years old, and we've just finished our Series B recently. So we're very fortunate. We got some great VCs involved, as well as some great angel investors. We have the lead in the B was Panorama Capitals out of Menlo Park here. We also have some good New York VCs in there, which includes Metamorphic and Greycroft. And then we have our Canadian connection, which is Inovia Capital out of Montreal.
Very cool. Good group of VCs.
Excellent group of VCs. Very happy with them.
And so where do you think the business is going to go? Are you going to just keep it going for a while, or are you going to take offers from? Because I bet, you know, you're studying behavior that Google doesn't quite have access to yet. And I would expect that Bing or Google or other engines would want to study that data and would want to own a company like you.
Well, I'm flattered to hear you say that. We are, having just closed a Series B, clearly we believe we have a lot more value creation to do in the company, so we're certainly not seeking to exit at this stage. I believe we can demonstrate that we do have a very interesting and compelling signal, and happy to partner with any of these companies and work with them, but we're not seeking a short-term exit here.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the infrastructure, because you're seeing millions of copies per day, and I would expect that number to go up as more and more publishers come on board. How scalable is it? How is it built? And how do you keep up with that real-timeness of what you're studying?
We're tracking over 100,000 data points a minute right now. And we started off when we built the company utilizing Ruby on Rails, MySQL implementation, and it clearly was not going to scale to where we needed it to go. So we changed the engine in the moving car. We recently moved to a Hadoop implementation, so a MapReduce, and that's been going very well. So, and we're growing at sometimes 10 up to 50% per month right now. And cool. So we're actually very, very ready now to scale into the hundreds of billions of page views a month.
Wow, and probably have some cool database servers. Can you tell me where you're hosted?
We're hosted at a facility in Chicago. We're actually going to be spinning up probably a redundant data center in Las Vegas shortly.
Very cool. And what's important for a startup to consider when they're choosing a hosting company like that?
Support is a big part of it, because the reality, especially with us, with the number of servers that we operate, you're going to always have some in a state of failure. So being able to make sure that there's very fast real-time support is key. And that and bandwidth too. Like, we actually tried to use the cloud, and the cloud couldn't keep up with what we were doing. We'd use one of the major cloud providers, and we started bumping into all kinds of throttles and limits in the system. And Hadoop's not ideal for the cloud, really. It's meant to be running on physical systems.
Yeah, well, that's going to change. So
It will, and we'll hopefully
at
we will.
Rackspace, we got some of the guys who developed some of these newer database infrastructures working on that. So
yeah. Rackspace, we have multiple providers, and Rackspace is one of them.
very cool. Well, thank you for that. Any last thing you want to tell me about your company and where it's going?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of very exciting things coming out of us over the next 3 to 4 months. So I'd say just check back at tynt.com, and you'll see some cool stuff.
And it's Tynt. It's spelled a little
Tynt. That's right.
Tynt. Very cool. Are you on Twitter as well, by the way?
Yes, you can follow us at Tynt, and I'm on there as Derek Ball, all one word.
Thanks for giving me a little tour.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it.